誰か。失礼いたします。昼食をお持ちいたしました。入れ。失礼いたします。
Sorry. After receiving approval, Kanon entered the VIP room, pushing the serving cart that carried lunch. The servants called this room the Witch's VIP room. That was because Kinzo strictly ordered that it always be kept clean, so that it could be used at any time. Even so, guests would not be allowed into this room no matter who they were. That's why, at some point, the servants had started calling it the VIP room, which was supposed to be set aside only to welcome the special person Kinzo waited for. The witch from that portrait. And today, Kanon realized that this was absolutely true. When he entered the room, the blonde-haired witch was gazing out the window. And here we have a little peek into the VIP room. Outside, the rain was no longer falling weakly. As she looked out at the beautiful rose garden, which had been tended to over several days for today's sake, as she saw the winds and rain ravage it, was she struck by some sentimental feelings. Kanon was not able to tell anything more from her back, which faced him.
お食事の用意をさせていただきます。ベアトリーチェ様。
Kanon went out of his way to call out the witch's name, hoping that she'd turn around. He wanted to know. He wanted to know if the witch who tempted him and Shannon in the past had really appeared again. When he did, the witch whose name had been called laughed, her back still facing him. Holding back her voice, she laughed. Kanon was startled. It was almost as though she had read his mind and knew that he had called out to her, hoping to make her turn around.
良い匂いだな。どうやらクラウスは良い料理人を入れたと見える。
はい。近年入ったゴーダという料理人です。
料理の腕が良きことは何にも勝るものよ。美食は人の世で生きる快楽の山中をなす。千年を飽きぬにはこれを欠かさぬが秘訣よ。
Kanon and the witch's eyes met. Then she grinned. Without a doubt, certainly, this was clearly the witch from that day, Beatrice. The witch that no one but he and Shannon could see in the past finally held a form, and had arrived openly as a guest through the entrance hall.
ベアトリーチェ様。
久しぶりよの。家具のカノン。
お久しぶりでございます。
He's forced to respond to her. Oh no, poor Kanon. Kanon tried to remember to be polite to his guest for the time being, but the visit of this suspicious witch made dark clouds start to enshroud his heart, especially considering that today was the family conference.
何をしに現れたのかと気が気でならぬと見える。そうであろう。
Kanon didn't force an answer. This witch probably reads minds, so it's pointless to go to the trouble of saying it out loud. Of course, she could read even his inner resistance. So the witch giggled at Cannon's childish defiance.
金蔵との最後の約束を果たしに来た。
親方様との最後の約束。
わらわは金蔵に山をなす黄金を貸し付けた。それを金蔵が放棄するとき、わらわは利子をつけて返却を受けることになっておる。今宵それをもらい受けに来た。
僕には何の話か分かりません。
However, uncertainty began to gather in his heart. Whatever this witch had to say, it couldn't be anything good.
違いない。魔女の話にろくなものはないぞ。そなたは正しされど、魔女とハサミは使いようだ。ソロモン王のように偉業を成し遂げる者も時にはおる。最も多くの場合は童話が語るようにろくな目には合わんがな。
Okay. So in this world, I guess fairy tale witches are real to some extent?
しかし金蔵も食えぬ。わらわの利子の取り立てすらも自らの儀式に取り込みおった。わらわをも超えるとてつもない大魔術師か。さもなければ狂気に取りつかれたただの知れ者か。面白い。実に面白い。
Worse, Beatrice. He's a lawyer. Kanon couldn't guess what the witch was muttering and laughing about. All he knew was that anything that made this witch laugh must have the exact opposite meaning for everyone else. And in the back of his mind, the horrifying words the witch had spat at him in the past began to resurface. What? Did you think I'd lend you my power and ask for nothing in exchange? I'll gladly assist a pair in love, and in exchange, I'll enjoy watching the cruel fate they'll eventually meet. I have never come across a better show, not over the course of 1,000 years. I'm not giving up on Battler, but like again, assuming witches in this world are real, that means that like the witch from Hansel and Gretel got so fucking bored of existing that she resorted to making Candylands and then luring children in to fatten them up before eating them for some reason. Like Beatrice got so bored that she like made men suck her toes or whatever. But this witch was like so fucking bored, she started making Candylands. Her home was made of candy. Everything that was in her home was like in her like land was candy. And then she fattens up two twins or whatever. So that would mean that story is real, and that would be really fucking funny if it was.
まさかお前は。
懐かしき故郷を貫く鮎の川、黄金鏡を目指す者よ、これを下りて鍵を探せ。
The witch suddenly began to recite a bizarre poem. It was something he remembered hearing.
それはまさか魔女の碑文。
There was no mistake. It was the epitaph that accompanied the portrait of the witch Kinzo had put on display. The relatives had guessed that it referred to the location of the hidden gold, but no one knew what it meant for sure. The witch suddenly began reciting that epitaph.
カノン、家具である貴様なら金蔵から聞いていよう。すべてを黄金鏡へ返す日がやってきたのだ。喜ぶがいい。お前の恥辱にまみれた家具の日々がようやく終わる時がやってきたのだ。お前はそれをずっと望んできたはず。自らに存在価値を持たぬ家具にとってただ存在するだけの日々は苦痛に他ならない。
Now, before we continue, like, I kind of just thought about this for more than 2 seconds, finally. So it just dawned on me. But there's going to be murders tonight, right? Someone's gonna die tonight, at least 6 people, assuming it's the same as night 1, right? If 6 people die, the following what the fuck is gonna happen the following morning? Everyone's gonna wake up, Beatrice is gonna ring a bell, be like, hey, where's breakfast? I'm fucking hungry. And then when everyone discovers the bodies, you know, they're all gonna look at Beatrice. And when all the little dots connect in their heads, because it's gonna take them like 30 minutes, what the fuck is gonna happen then? Are they all just gonna watch TV? Are they all just gonna play Clue in the meantime until night comes again? And then 4 people die? Like, what's gonna happen? How can, I assume there's gonna be conflict. I assume Natsu's gonna grab the rifle, try to shoot Beatrice, the bullet's gonna bounce back, pierce her skull or something. Like, what the fuck is she gonna be doing? Just laying on the carpet in the living room, drawing magic circles with, God, what's her fucking name? With Rosa's kid, Maria? Like, is that what she's gonna do? It's like, oh no, 6 corpses. Anyway, Maria, look, this is the next pentacle we're gonna be drawing. This is from the Key of Solomon. Have you seen it before? Like, how are they? Well, I mean, we'll find out. And I'm kind of like killing the pace, but like, try to think about that for a second. What the hell is gonna fucking happen? They just crucify her.
魂ある者にとって写しをは固執すべきものだが、亡き者にとって写しをは苦害でしかないからの。
Why would she out herself? Everyone's just gonna turn to her. When, like, whenever they realize the portrait's epitaph is what's happening, which will take them for fucking ever, they'll be like, oh, how come Beatrice hasn't died? Everyone else has died. We've lost 10 people. But no, stream should be fine. Anyway. Complicated expressions flitted across Kanon's face. This was the day of release that Kanon had been looking forward to. However, the coming of this day had been mercilessly sudden. And for some reason, he didn't like the hateful tone used by this witch as she informed him of the coming of this long-awaited day of rest. Kanon couldn't even decide what emotion he should be feeling.
なぜに喜ばぬ？それとも、写しよに何かの未練があるというのか？家具の分際で。
未練などない。僕は家具だから。
貴様は実に模範的な家具だな。よいよい。しかし、何の未練もないとはつくづく面白みのない。
未練こそがお前の快楽だというのか。
その通り。1000年も生きると大抵の魔女は生き飽きる。 わらわは退屈から逃れるために人間たちの運命にブランデーや果実を練り込み、ケーキのように焼き上げるのだ。オーブンの中で苛烈な運命に踊る人間たちのなんと面白きこと。わらわはこの方面にかけてはちと知られていてな。
I was about to say, is she the fucking witch from Hansel and Gretel now? Is that what's about to be revealed?
わらわの料理の腕を見に、時には遠方から珍客が見物に来ることすらあるくらいよ。言っても家具ごときには理解できぬか。
Kanon couldn't understand what the witch was saying. However, he fully realized that this was a terrifying being who treated the fate of humans as a show, enjoying it whenever some harm befell them. However, furniture has no soul or life, much less a fate. Pitiful furniture does nothing but serve until the day they're released from the world. To furniture like that, the witch, who had come to release them from everything, was a being to be received with overflowing affection. Even though the day Kanon should have been waiting impatiently for had come, he was confused by his own inability to accept it easily. Why was it? The face of Shannon, the person he loved as a sister, rose to his mind, and for some reason, Jessica's face did too. Kanon bit his lower lip hard enough that it hurt. Thinking about Jessica like that was something furniture must never do. Even though he thought he'd known that, even though he'd complained about Shannon's relationship, why was it that Jessica rose into his mind at a time like this? He felt a little shameful at his own naivety. And to forget about Jessica, he turned his thoughts to Shannon. Shannon is also furniture. She has no reason not to rejoice at the coming of the day when all will return to nothingness. But Shannon, through her relationship with George, has experienced an emotion forbidden to furniture. Even though she isn't qualified to be bonded with him, she's still trapped in a dream that she isn't allowed to have. Will Shannon be able to joyfully accept this development? No, she won't. Shannon still has lingering regrets. Those will probably become a great source of pain and torture for her. And those lingering regrets were planted by none other than this witch. Why? Because that would be more interesting. Nothing more.
シャノンは待ちわびていたはずの日に知ってはならない感情を持ち、とても辛い思いを強いられるだろう。僕たち家具を解放する日を手土産に訪れてくれたあなたに感謝する。そしてシャノンにその日を受け入れがたくしたお前を憎む。
お前もシャノン同様に未練に苦します。しかしお前は愚直に家具であり続け、わらわに籠絡されることもなかった。しかしシャノンを慕いすぎたようだな。シャノンの未練がそなたの未練となる。それはわらわへの憎悪へと変わるのか？わらわを殺したくば殺してみるがよい。金蔵の家具ならばその程度の力は持っていよう。しかしわらわを殺せば家具どもに安息の日は永遠に訪れぬぞ。そなたにそれが耐えられるのか？わらわによる解放を本当に拒むことができるのか？ひざまずけ。
何を？
ひざまずき、わらわの靴に口づけをするがよい。 さもなくばわらわはこの場を立ち去ろうぞ。帰りて永遠に姿を現さぬ。
Oh my god.
のうカノン、そなたはそれに耐えられるのか。
So she's using her authority as a VIP guest to make one of the servants lick her feet. She has the power to make mountains of gold appear out of nothingness. And that's what she wants to do, like, with her time.
黄金鏡の扉が開かれれば、そなたの苦難に満ちた家具の生は終わろう。望むならば、人間としての生を与えてもよい。さすれば、もはやジェシカとは対等。貴様も知りたいはずだ。恋の味が。隠そうとも知っておるぞ。甘き恋の沼にて溺れるシャノンを見て、そなたは羨ましがっている。恋の味を知りたくてうずうずしておるのよ。
やめろ、やめろ。僕を再び籠絡するつもりか。僕はお前を楽しませるためのおもちゃになり果てたりしない。
ほう。ならばシャノンで満足するとしよう。まいた種はそなただけではないのでな。時には実を結ばぬ果実もある。鍵を手にせし者は以下に従いて黄金鏡へ旅立つべし。第一の番に鍵の選びし6人を生贄に捧げよ。第二の番に残されし者は寄り添う2人を引き裂け。
The witch recited the epitaph again. Actually, hold on. Okay, so it was just taking a bit to load the actual scene. Sorry, like, I think I've been having issues with either just OBS in general, which I've complained about, I think, on every stream for the past, like, 3 weeks, or, like, with a recent graphics card update. But either way. The witch recited the epitaph again. It was so sudden and diverged so strongly from the current topic. However, that challenging smile made it seem almost as though she was using that epitaph as a threat against Kanon. So let's quickly read this one last time. I'll be satisfied with Shannon alone. After all, you aren't the only one who was implanted with a seed. Even fruiting plants sometimes fail to bear fruit after all. But then she says this. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. And then she mentions the first two. Why? Why does she mention these two right now? Here, just in case anything happens, I'm gonna save real quick. Oh, we get the fucking Halloween music again.
この非分の儀式を成し遂げるには、第二の番に寄り添う2人を生贄に捧げねばならぬ。寄り添う2人は誰でもよい。夫婦でもよいし、恋人同士でもよい。誰を選ぶかは儀式のルールにのっとり、わらわが気まぐれに決めてよいことになっている。今のシャノンならこれほどふさわしい第二の番の生贄もないとは思わぬか。
卑劣な。
Kanon realized something. Until today, he thought he'd given up on everything else. He'd given up everything else and lived as furniture, acting like furniture. But in reality, that wasn't true. He loved Shannon too dearly. Therefore, when Shannon was in pain, Kanon shared in that. If only Shannon had continued to live as furniture, indifferently like Kanon, without any regrets in this world, he wouldn't have had to be in so much pain. The witch planned to toy with Shannon, who had known the taste of love. No, whom she had taught the taste of love, as she killed her. She wouldn't be welcomed into the Golden Land and granted a compassionate release. Instead, if the witch had her way, she'd be used as a sacrifice, subjected to the utmost of torture and pain, and forcibly turned into a human foundation for this evil ceremony. And this witch would probably make Shannon meet this horrible fate for no reason other than it was for no reason other than for no reason other than that it was amusing to her. Furthermore, she was threatening to do this so that she could make Kanon, who had never submitted to the witch, finally give in. It was that simple. In the end, though he had tried to resist the witch and avoid pleasing her, he had only made things more amusing for her. After all, he was furniture. No, a toy. They were nothing but toys meant only to distract her from her boredom.
どうするカノン。ひざまずけばシャノンを生贄に選ぶことを控えんこともないぞ。お前のような玩具を一度屈服させてみたかった。
Without even a fragment of elegance, the witch sneered at Kanon and laughed indecently. That's right, she predicted Kanon's submission even before he'd made that decision himself. Kanon chose to get down on both knees in front of the witch. It didn't matter what happened to himself. However, the one thing he couldn't bear to see was Shannon, who had given him his only reason to live during his days as furniture, being toyed with like this. That was why kissing the shoes of the witch was an easy oath for Kanon to make. When his quivering lips actually touched the witch's shoe, Beatrice let a look of ecstasy rise to her face, then laughed with a voice filled to bursting. Oh, and another background that hasn't been replaced. But it's also new. At that moment, the witch who had grown bored of life after 1,000 years was completely filled with the evil emotion that she lived for. When lunch ended, the relatives moved to the parlor. Rosa had bought a high-class brand of black tea from a famous store in Ginza. That had been served in the parlor was filled with a pleasant aroma. Since the children were there too, the adults tried to interact like normal relatives on the surface, talking peacefully about recent events and how their children were growing up. It had started raining, so the children couldn't do anything but sit here like this, watching TV, unable to go outside. Maria was apparently a TV kid, and she kept watching a boring daytime program without getting bored, giggling all by herself. At first, Battler joined in, seeming to deepen his relationship with Maria, but he had gotten up early that morning and was gradually hit by a wave of drowsiness.
おや、大きなあくびだね。朝がずいぶん早かったんじゃないのかい？
ま、そんなとこだよ。 緊張が解けて、雨の音を聞いてるうちに眠くなってきちまった。
緊張あんだけ態度でかそうにしてて緊張なんてしてたのかよ。
Yeah, she's basically an iPad kid. Well, a couch potato, if we go by 80s and 90s terminology.
一応、俺なりにはな。
His yawning keeps making me yawn. Battler, stop. Battler gave another great yawn and slowly lay down on the sofa. He really did look tired. George and the others had tried talking to him, thinking it was a sign of boredom, but when they realized he really was sleepy, they decided to let him be.
おやおや、食事の後にすぐ横になるとサバになると申しますよ。
Eh? Oh, that the food will become... Well, she said saba, which is just fish, but I guess they're going with mackerel.
冗談よせやい。ゴーダさん、今夜は子牛のステーキだって言ってたぜ。サバのステーキになっちまう。
熊沢さん、こいつ本当に眠いらしい。毛布を持ってきてあげてくれないかな。
さあ、どうぞ。
Kumasawa brought a blanket over from the shelf. The large parlor wasn't cold, but the air had gotten a little chilly. So when Battler took the blanket, he immediately wrapped himself up in it like a turtle.
本当に眠かったんだね。何時かに起きる？起こしてあげるよ。
いや、特に希望は。なんか用があったら起こしてくれりゃいいし、なんにもねえんなら、ずっと眠らせてくれりゃいいぜ。おやすみ。
But you're gonna miss the veal. They're serving veal tonight.
バトラン寝ちゃうの？お昼寝マリアもする。こらマリア、バトラは眠いんだから放っておいてあげなきゃ。熊沢さん、もう一枚毛布をもらえるかな。
She started climbing onto the sofa to nap with Battler. It was doubtful whether Maria really wanted to take a nap. She probably saw Battler wrapped up in a blanket and wanted to do the same. When she received the blanket from Kumasawa, she joyfully wrapped herself up in it and set up camp again in front of the TV.
せっかく6年ぶりにいた子がみんな揃ったってのによ。こいつ今回の親族会議の主賓だって自覚全然ねえな。
The fuck do they mean? This is the second time they've mentioned this. He doesn't have a clue that he's the main guest of this family conference. But he's not. The main guest is Beatrice. Technically. Unless... And this is like hyper speculation. Let me get this up first. What if Battler is the killer? But not in the he's doing this, like he's actually out there killing like everyone sort of way, like he's physically doing it. But what if his denial of Beatrice existing is the reason why someone else kills in her name? What if Battler is the key to the Golden Land? He himself, his physical being, is the key to the Golden Land. Metaphorically, and again, this is me just thinking out loud, this is a hypothetical, this is a plausible theory, but don't think too much of it. Sweetfish River, or the Sweetfish River, could be either blood, the sweetfish being the blood cells running through the river metaphorically being blood, running through my beloved hometown being those in my family. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. So, ye who seek the Golden Land, follow the stream down its path, as in the family branches. And as you travel down it, you will see a village, so that would be like the family itself. And in that family, look for the shore the two will tell you of. The shore could be a place where two things meet. So it could be a place where two figures meet, such as a husband and wife, and there sleeps the key to the Golden Land. So the other interpretation could be sweetfish being sperm, for example. And instead of it being hometown, it's like the body or the womb. And if you want to go through that route, it's basically the same thing. Where the hometown is just a place where the key is located. Or a place where the key can be extracted from. Which could be the womb, or it could be the arms of someone, or, you know, the space between two people. Let's say Rudolph and his first wife with Battler. And Battler there sleeps the key to the Golden Land. He is the key to the Golden Land. And the one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance to this rule. Now, again, that's assuming. Assuming what I just said has any semblance. That's what this could mean. If not, then if he isn't the key, then he is part of the roulette. Not necessarily the ball within it, not necessarily a number in it, but his appearance is what spins the roulette, for example. Anyway, I'm thinking out loud too much, but that is a plausibility. Does it have any merit? Who knows? We will find out in like 3 chapters. Maybe 4. Or whatever, I don't fucking know. I'm guessing.
聞こえてるぞ。のんびり昼飯を食って、しかも外は台風で雨。何もすることがねえってことは、つまり、俺の出番じゃねえってことさ。
それはどうかな。何も起こらないから何もしないなんて受け身の姿勢じゃ人生は退屈だよ。
違うぜ。そういうなんつうのかな。こういう時、俺はこう思うことにしてる。出番じゃねえんだよ。こいつがお芝居だったならさ、俺の出番じゃねえってことなんだよ。
How does he know? Who told him?
だったら、舞台袖でおとなしくしてるに限るってわけさ。
Okay. So, is this battler sentient? Or, well, that's not the right term, but like, semi-omnipotent. You know how Rika would remember everything that would happen after she died? Whenever she died and she was in that other world, she would remember everything that happened to her. How she died, what killed her, and so on and so forth. Or actually, no. Sorry, it didn't. But she remembered that, you know, like, most of what happened before she died. That's what would happen. And then in her following life, she would remember everything that would occur while she was alive. From her being a kid, what happened with her mom, how they would interact, and so on and so forth. But all her friends could not. right? Like Keiichi didn't remember anything from the past life, same with Satoko, and so on and so forth. Could that be happening with Battler right now, but he's skipping the whole, he needs to witness someone's death to be like, oh, this has happened to me before. And it's currently the Battler from the, sorry, it's currently the Battler from the Purgatory Tea Room that we're seeing right now. Now, we had Beatrice enter the stage, quote unquote. So I'm assuming Battler did something similar around the same time. It could have been that we had just whatever Battler was from this dimension, like the dimension of Chapter 2, and then he suddenly got like all his memories or whatever at some point while we were watching other characters. Or it could be that that's about to happen, or I'm talking to my ass. So we'll see.
自分の人生はいつだって自分が主人公だろ。そんな脇役根性でどうすんだよ。自分から進んで舞台に上がらなきゃ。
そういう意味じゃねえ。今は俺の出番じゃねえって言いたいのさ。悪いな。眠くて思考がめちゃくちゃだ。勘弁してくれ。
確かに眠くてなんだか支離滅裂なことを言ってるね。もうそっとしてあげようよ。
私は聞き捨てならねえぜ。自分の人生はいつだって自分が主人公だよ。ちょっとそのあたり本格的にバトラーと議論したいけどな。
寝ぼけてるだけだよ。深く考えちゃダメさ。
なんかさ、自分は主役になれないから舞台に上がりたくないみたいな根性、なぜだかすっげえうぜえって思って。
What the fuck is she going on about? Like, Battler is not saying, I'm not gonna go up on stage. He's just saying it's not my time yet. Plus, I mean, excluding this metaphor of a stage play, what the fuck does she want him to do? They're all just waiting politely for lunchtime. Or dinner, or whatever fucking food hour is coming next. I think it is dinner. Like, what the fuck does she want Battler to do right now? You know? That's what I'm really confused about. Like, it pissed her off that he was like, I'm not the main character, blah, 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 blah. And now she's just saying this. That lack of guts, you know, not wanting to go on stage just because you think you can't be the main character. Something about it just pisses me off. Like, did he even fucking say this? No. It isn't his turn. Like, like, what the fuck is she spouting? What the fuck is wrong with Jessica? Anyway. What a weird way to misinterpret everything he just said. But whatever. With distant eyes, Jessica gazed out the window at the gray rose garden obscured by rain. When she put her forehead up against the glass, the pleasantly cool sensation seemed to... Oh. Jeez. I don't know if that was loud enough for all of you. Hopefully it wasn't. Fucking hell. Every so often, like, my sounds get reset. Anyway. When she put her forehead up against the glass, the pleasantly cool sensation seemed to chase away memories she was trying to forget.
君の出番じゃなかったってことなのか。じゃあいつ君は舞台に上がるんだよ。
In that case, who the heck is the main character on stage?
もうやりたい放題じゃねえかよ。
Okay. So my theory about Universe 1 Battler was correct.
なんだこりゃよ。めちゃくちゃじゃねえか。
そなたがわらわを否定する根拠とする18人だの19人だのという理論が実に滑稽だったのでな。指し手を変えてみたまでよ。そなたがわらわを否定する最大の根拠は単にわらわが駒としてゲーム盤に並ばなかったからというだけのこと。ならばこうしてクイーンを先に指せばいいだけの話ではないか。初手にてクイーンに道を開けるはチェスの王道ではないか。
ふざけやがって。こんなの認められるわけねえじゃねえかよ。魔女が歩いて玄関からやってきただと。ふざけるじゃね
え。なんだなんだ。前回のゲームではそなたに散々自由に手を進めさせたぞ。こたびはわらわがそなたの手に合わせて駒を動かしたに過ぎん。初手にてもう降参か。
くそったれ。ふざけるな。誰が降参なんかするかってんだ。上等な指し手だぜ。好きに進めればいいじゃねえか。なるほどな。まだまだお前の出番は終わってないってわけだ。好きに手を進めりゃいい。今のうちに十分な陣形を築いとく。俺が必ずしのぐ。必ず詰める。言い訳なんてされたくねえ。存分に来やがるってんだ。まだまだこの程度じゃ魔女なんて認められるわけがねえぜ。そうさ。さっきマリアのお菓子を魔法で直したように見えたが、実は同じお菓子をもう一つ懐に忍ばせていて、芝居がかった方法ですり替えて、あたかも魔法。ああ、そうさ、そうに決まってる。ダメだぜ。全然ダメだぜ。
Okay, so I get where Battler's coming from right now, but you have to remember that at this moment, he is currently, how to word it? He is currently trying to disprove that Beatrice exists, right? But that's already wrong, because he just mentioned that she was there in front of Maria and decided to, you know, fucking throw the candy up in the air and then like swap it out. That implies that she exists. That implies that she's there. And that's not really good now, is it? That already kind of throws his argument out the fucking window. Like, even he doesn't believe it. Look at this. I really fucking doubt. Like, again, like you keep mentioning it could be someone in costume. No, it fucking can't. It's not someone in costume.
ローザは歌詞が蝶に散る瞬間を見たぞ。
知らねえよ。そんなのは幻覚か手品か。さもなきゃ見間違いだろ。大した問題じゃねえ。
説明のつかぬ部分はさまつと切り捨てたか。なるほど。それがそなたの受け手であるな。
It can't be someone in a costume because it just doesn't make any sense that it's someone in a costume. If it was, then no one would have mistaken her for the woman in the portrait. That's the main thing.
墓穴を掘ったぞ。後ろ宮バトラー。お前の手番はまだ先だぞ。もうしばらくわらわの手番を進めさせてもらう。まだまだこれからだぞ、魔女の手番は。
魔女のターンだ。When they started hearing Battler snores, the relatives went their separate ways, leaving the parlor and letting Battler sleep in silence. Even though it had been so lively in the parlor with so many people gathered there, when all of them scattered at once and were swallowed up by the vast mansion, it created an eerie silence, with no sound except that of the rain.
いや、そんな人間には一度も会ったことはないぜ、姉貴は。
会ったことなんてないわ。キリエさん、本当なの？
私もちょっと玄関ホールに出た時に挨拶をしただけです。20歳ちょっとくらいに見えたわ。私は名乗ったんだけど、彼女は名乗らなかった。源氏さんに案内されて2階へ登っていくのを見たの。
No, that's not the whole story, Kirie. When you asked her for her name, she specifically said, "You dare ask me what my name is, despite knowing it."
なら源氏さんを見つけて直接話を聞いた方が早いやろ。しかし妙な雲行きになってきよったな。
The mystery woman had spoken to Kirie. Without naming herself, she'd sneered that Kirie should have had a vague idea as to her identity. That brought someone to mind. And then there was her lookalike, the witch in a portrait.
そいつは自分が肖像画の魔女様だとそう言いたいってのかよ。
So I did mention this last stream, where I kind of like thought about why the portrait was different. It could be that maybe she poses differently for each portrait in each chapter, perhaps. Like, we're used to the one of her just looking dead-eyed, kind of like a doll, you know, and she is looking to the left. Her body is facing the left. But the portrait in this chapter is the one that we just saw, of Beatrice sitting, like, on a chair, looking smugly straight ahead at you, with her body facing your direction. So it could be that that is also, again, just like a direct challenge to Battler. Where if she was posing this time in this timeline for the painting itself, she knew she was going to be fucking with Battler, and that's why she has a different outfit. She doesn't have her usual dress. And that's why she's dressed as she is, just to kind of also differentiate the paintings a little bit, assuming that they are seeing a second painting, like a different painting in this reality, and we're not being shown something else. Because it could be that, you know, Ryukishi's just taking artistic liberties and showing us a different portrait for the fucking hell of it. He's like, well, I had two of them painted, might as well use the other one, right?
私はそういう意味で笑ったんだろうと理解したわ。私とは初対面でも、私があなたの5歳だと知っているような口ぶりだった。
Is Kirie fucking dumb? This is the thing that's been confusing me about the writing in this game so far. in chapter 1, the characters were all so fucking stupid that they were ignoring the plaque that they were, you know, the epitaph that they were told until the last final moment. And now here Kirie is talking like this, which is really weird. She didn't mention that, you know, she didn't mention that she was the Witch of the Portrait until a little bit after. But then this. I don't know if this might just be the translation. But even though it was her first meeting, she spoke as though she knew I'm your second wife. She called you Rudolph's second wife. Like, if I'm not mistaken, let me bring up the VOD real quick. I'm pretty sure. I'm 99% sure. She said something along the lines of, "Oh, you're Kirie, Rudolph's second wife." Yeah. Unless for some reason she couldn't hear her or something. But let's see. See if I can find it, because it's like I'm near it. So there's Rosa slapping her, then that's Beatrice showing up. And then here she is. There we go. So she's there with Kinzo. Yeah. When she literally meets her, they make eye contact. They're there in the hallway, and the first thing she tells her is, "You were Rudolph's second wife, yes?" Like, she fucking knows you're the second wife. Why would you say? She spoke as though she knew I'm your second wife. She told you. Anyway.
姉貴、本当にそんな奴は知らないんだね。
For all I know, this could be Silent Hill-esque writing, where the characters are just kind of weird and quirky. Maybe it's just her manner of speaking, or I don't fucking know. But it's weird that she would utter that phrase when she was directly referred to as a specific individual. It's like, imagine, you know, you meet someone and they're like, "Oh, you're so-and-so's brother, right? Oh, I've heard about you. Nice to meet you." And then you go back, like, you meet up with your brother later and you're like, "Hey, I met with this person and they seem to imply that I was your brother." Like, that'd be so fucking weird. Anyway, I'm overthinking this.
くどいわよ。そんな金髪女。この屋敷に出入りしたところなんて見たこともない。
Yeah, it could be that she's hiding it. Why she would, I don't know. But it's just fucking weird.
そんなようなことはどうでもええで。問題はその女が自分はベアトリーチェだと名乗り、お父さんの財産管理人を名乗った場合の方や。
That's all he fucking cares about at the end of the day. We don't. Who cares if there's a blonde woman walking around? If she calls herself the manager, then we're all in trouble. That's a big problem for everyone.
あるいは愛人の娘を自称して遺産の分配を要求するつもりかしら。いずれにせよとんでもないジョーカーが紛れ込んだものね。兄さんが呼んだの？それともお父様が？
まずいな。俺たちは兄貴をうまく言いくるめりゃなんとかできるものと思ってきた。しかしこれじゃ話が振り出しに戻っちまう。
あなたが私の知らないところでどんな策謀を巡らしてたのか知らないけれど、どうも少しは対策を立てる時間を得られたみたいね。
ああ、その金髪姉ちゃんが晩目、今からわずかの時間でも対策を協議できる方がマシだ。
何しに現れたか分からへん以上、撃てる対策も限られとるで。向こうの狙いは何なんや。
決まってるでしょ。 お父様の遺産の正当な後継者だと言い張るためよ。お父様は未だにベアトリーチェの虜なのよ。その娘がいたなら全財産を譲りたいと言い出すはずだわ。妙な遺言状でも突きつけてくるかもしれない。そりゃ裁判沙汰にすれば半分の4分の1は主張できるかもしれないけど、多分決着するまで遺産分割はできなくなるわよ。それは困る。私もルドルフも、もちろんローザもね。
It also just hit me that during chapter 1, when they were about to have dinner, Genji went up to Kinzo's room and knocked and was like, "Hey, it's dinner time." And he was playing chess. So Nanjo was like, "Well, I'm starving, I'm gonna go have dinner." But Kinzo specifically said, "Is she here? Is the guest that I'm waiting for here?" And Genji said no. And then he said, "Why the fuck are you bothering me then? Get the hell out of here. I have no interest in eating if she's not here." Also, X Lazy, thanks so much for the raid over on Twitch. I appreciate it. So what's gonna happen this chapter when she is here? Like, that's what I'm, like, I should be concerned about what they're talking about right now. They're all basically saying we can't have this woman claim that she's got a rightful claim to the inheritance and blah, 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 right? I get what they're arguing about, but I'm more interested in what the fuck is going to happen after this, if anything.
俺たちはそれぞれの都合で早急にまとまった金がいる。俺たち最大のウィークポイントってわけだ。なら、狙いは何だ？キリエ、読めるか？
初耳なんだけれど、私たちには急ぎまとまったお金が必要だという前提があるのね。
キリエさん、男の商売には攻めの時にこそ軍資金がいるようになることもあるんや。それを分かってえな。
なーにルドルフ、キリエさんには話してなかったの？
すまん、隠してたわけじゃないんだ。実はちょいとした。
いいわ。あなたが私に話す必要がないと判断した話なんだから、それをこの場では追求しない。それより急務は黄金の魔女様の狙いを探ることなんでしょ？
ああ、俺たちの話を整理した上で敵の撃ってくる手が見えるか。
Because the other thing to understand is there is now a 19th person on the island for sure. Whether that person is Beatrice or not is something completely different. For all we know, it's someone that knows of Beatrice, someone that is faithful to Beatrice, or someone that might be, I don't know, just loyal to her in some way, shape, or form, and is acting on her behalf to fuck with Battler, right? Assuming the rules of Higurashi apply here, in the sense that, you know, someone in the same vein as Rika can exist in a world and alter it and partake in it. Assuming that can happen, then it is possible that a being like Beatrice can exist in this universe. The thing is, even in Higurashi, the quote-unquote powers that Rika had were menial and trivial. Her power was never dying, and the ability to change fate. If she really, 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 really believed it, she could change fate. But at the end of the day, she was just a girl, right? Like, whenever she actively did something, she was using a knife, she was using poison, she was using physical human things, or things that a human could use to perform whatever it is that she wanted to do. So I can't remember who the fuck she killed, but she ended up killing someone with a knife, or I think it was with poison. I forget who. I think it was Satoko at one point, or was it Shion? I don't remember off the top of my head. It's been a bit. I'll have to like really think about it to remember. But like she also got into a fight with Shion at one point, and she ends up killing herself by stabbing herself in the throat, and then just being like, "Fuck this world, whatever, you deal with it." The same thing could be happening here with Beatrice, where it's either she does exist, but magic does not, or not in the traditional sense that everyone thinks, where she could be doing all these things that she claims she's doing, or maybe it's someone else doing them for her. Yeah, it could be that she just, threw the piece of candy up in the air and she pulled another one out, and she just hid the original somewhere. And I don't know, like I think a lightning bolt struck at the same time when she threw the candy up, so that could have been the quote unquote golden butterflies that Rosa saw, for example. So it could be, again, that Beatrice exists, but isn't like a witch per se, in a traditional sense of like one that can do magic and so on and so forth. Mainly because when you believe a lot in something, you are more inclined to think that things related to that specific topic might be real. An example of this would be with like religion, for example. There are fraudsters out there, right, that take advantage of people that are like religious zealots. Without I guess going too much into it, there was a pastor in Africa who claimed he could cure people of their cancers, of literally whatever the fuck they had, right? He would put his hands on them, and he would fix them magically, quote unquote, with like the power of the Lord. He would fix them. And there was like a video of him, like, having someone who was like wheelchair bound, and he puts his hand on their head and he like chants a prayer, and then he asks the person to start walking, and the person starts to walk, right? There are people who will see stuff like that and then believe like anything because they believe really hard in that thing. So it could be that, again, like Maria, not Maria, but like Shannon and Kanon probably saw Beatrice that night or that day, like a few months ago, because she lives in this island. Like, she lives on the island, probably in the forest, probably somewhere, and she just appears out of nowhere or through some of these secret walls that are in the mansion that no one else knows about and no one else is able to hear because they're too distracted. And that's kind of when she pops out, usually when people are distracted. And she probably just quote unquote burned their palms with the quote unquote like butterfly brand. They probably thought it was a butterfly brand, and probably wasn't. It was probably just a little circle. It was probably just like the tip of the pipe burning their hand, their palm. But anyway, I'm rambling. But you get what I mean. What I'm trying to get at is that it's not necessarily that the magic that she performs is real, but because she's able to do very specific tricks and be very elaborate with the way she directs your attention, that she's able to distract you and make you think that the things that she's doing are real. Anyway, Rudolph had a certain measure of trust in Kiria's unique thinking technique, chessboard thinking. Oh, we're getting it again. Of course, it didn't give him any more peace of mind than fortune telling, but every time Rudolph was polishing up some important strategy, he'd give a great deal of thought to Kiria's advice. For a while, Kiria pressed her finger against her forehead, considering.
今日の今日まで彼女が訪れることが伏せられていた以上、彼女は私たちに何らかのサプライズを与える目的があった。それが財産なのか、親族としての認知な、でも今日の今日まで訪れることを伏せていたということは。
God damn it. Sorry, it's because sometimes what happens is I will press a key to move the text along. Sometimes I have to press it twice, just in quick succession, so that the whole text is displayed. And what will happen sometimes is if the text is not lagging, it will load quickly, and then I will accidentally skip the text, so it's not my intention. We can't tell for sure whether she's after assets or being recognized as a relative. However, her coming was kept secret until today.
事前に知らせることで対応を打たれたくなかったと言えるかもしれない。ということは、彼女の目的は対応を打たれると不利になるものらしい。わかる？
なるほどな。例えば、親父が以前に書かせた遺言状そのものだとか、血縁の認知とそれが揺るぎないもので盤石な証拠だというなら、むしろそれは予告するはずだろうよ。
Right. And what Kiria just said is incredibly important. This. Her coming was kept secret until today, which probably means she didn't want us to take any measures against her. Something we might have done if we'd known beforehand. Which is why Battler, when he went to sleep and he went back into purgatory, he was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Right? So she caught everyone by surprise, essentially.
そうね。むしろ疑う立場にある私たちに弁護士でも鑑定士でも連れてこさせて、グーの音も出ないくらいに事実を突きつけるべきなのよ。それができるならね。
つまり奇襲狙いという時点で敵は真正面からの正攻法では勝てんちゅうことを意味するわけやな。道理や。絶対勝てる切り札は堂々と切るに限るで。回りくどい切り方はむしろ切り札を曇らせるもんや。
And this is also incredibly important. The fact that she's launching a surprise attack shows that our foe can't win with a frontal assault. If a trump card can win no matter what, it's best to play it out in the open. If you play it in a roundabout way, it might end up weakening its impact. And that is something that Rika mentioned in the Otherworld Tea Party, where she was like, Beatrice will win no matter what, so she doesn't even bother looking at, or she doesn't even bother throwing her dice. Also, this music is very good. It sounds like something you'd hear in Parasite Eve. If you play it in a roundabout way, it might end up weakening its impact. So now we need to find out what exactly the trump card is, unless it's literally her showing up before she's supposed to quote-unquote show up.
結論から言うと、皆さんがご就寝の遺産問題に直接もしくは間接的に絡む相当のサプライズが突きつけられると予想されるわね。おそらく向こうはそのインパクトだけでこちらを圧倒できるつもりでいる。しかしその何かは 相当のインパクトを伴いながらも絶対ではない。
つまりそこがこちらのつけ込む余地というわけね。
あんたはほんま頭の切れるお人や。これだけでも分かればだいぶ心強いで。つまり相手のペースに飲み込まれるなっちゅうことやな。
Which battler already fucking failed?
結局のところ非常にシンプルな結論よ。相手が何を切り出そうとも焦らず冷静に対応する。交渉術の初歩の初歩じゃない。これじゃあ相手の思考を読めたとはとても言えないわ。
いいや、相変わらずなかなかのもんだぜ。こちらに攻める余地があると分かれば余裕も変わってくるってもんだ。
わからないのは彼女とクラウス兄さんの関係ね。クラウス兄さんにとってもサプライズなのか、それとも彼女を呼んだのは他でもないクラウス兄さん自身なのか。もし後者だったなら随分と厄介なことになるかもしれないわよ。
そうね。謎の女を親族会議の当日にこっそり呼びつける。いやらしいセンスがどことなく兄さんっぽい感じもする。
That would be really fucking funny if he did that. If Klaus went out of his way to put like a Craigslist ad out there in like Kabukicho or in like Shibuya or in Ginza and being like, looking for young blonde woman in her 20s, must have blue eyes, must have like a bitch of a personality. If you meet this criteria, please call this number for further inquiries. Your help is wanted. And then he's able to find a woman that looks almost like Beatrice. But if you count the bangs on her sprite, they are slightly different. They're off by like one. She's got like one extra bang. And because of that, you're able to tell that she's fake. And her name's actually like Betty. But she just goes by Beatrice because that's what, you know, this character's name is supposed to be. That'd be so fucking silly.
兄貴、こうしよう。女の正体がはっきりと証明できない限り、俺らはその女のいかなる身分も認めない。
それが最善ね。現に桐江さんに対して名乗ってすらいない。正体不明の女の発言で私たちの会員がかき回されちゃたまらないわ。
血縁証明でも示してみせるかもしれんで。お父さんの血が流れてることが例えば母子手帳でも示されたらどうにもならん。
証明物なんかいくらでも偽装を疑える。
What if it was faked?
仮にそれが本物だったとしても、当人が本人だと証明するには病院沙汰にしなきゃならん。少なくとも今の六軒島でそれを証明することは不可能だ。
つまりこういうことよ。今の六軒島では何が示されても真実だと受け入れることはできない。台風が去ってしかるべき場所で証明してみせるまでな。
そういうので上げ足を取りまくるのは姉貴の得意技だな。任せるぜ。
バカ言ってんじゃないわよ。あんたも協力するのよ。私たちにはお金がいる。それも急ぎまとまった額が。私たちは運命共同体よ。こんなところでひょっこり現れた謎の女に遺産のあてをぶち壊されてたまるもんですか。
Rudolph and Ava always formed a united front as siblings at times like this, sickened by the idea that their own inheritance might be snatched away by an outsider. Kiria noticed how indomitable they looked. She shook her head slightly and gave a small sigh as she gazed out the window. Outside, it was still raining heavily and everything was gray, having lost all vibrance. The lush garden that the sun had shone on earlier now felt like alive. For some reason, the words Ava said a second ago kept repeating in Kiria's head. So, in other words, it's something like this. No matter what's shown to us now on Rokenjima, it can't be accepted as truth. There was an odd nuance to those words. At that moment, the island was closed off by the typhoon and isolated. They had access to no public institutions and no hospital. So on this island, no matter what manner of proof related to the outside world was shown, it would be possible to call it a lie. It would be impossible to prove that something was the truth. Now that they were isolated from the outside, all truths those proof lay in the outside world would be called lies. And it froze for a bit. So does that mean that right now on Rokenjima, no truth exists at all? Does it mean that everything will now be ruled by lies alone? It almost gives the illusion that we've left the human world of truth and have been shut away inside another world, one of lies. Kiria remembered that woman's appearance one more time. She remembered both what she looked like and the witch of the portrait. On this island, which had been cut off from the world of humans and shut away in the world of non-humans, a non-human being has come to visit. Kiria couldn't think of the smile that had appeared on that woman's face as anything other than a portent of misfortune. I get the feeling my chessboard thinkings missed a vital premise, one that'll be necessary to understand that misfortune-bearing smile. Yes, that smile made me feel as though someone inhuman was mocking me. I've based my reasoning on the assumption that our opponent is human like us. However, just like this island is now, she may be a being that isn't human, and human values may not matter to her. If that's true, all of our reasoning is useless. For what reason has the witch been invited here today? Only one thing is certain. Now, in this instant, she is staying somewhere in this vast mansion.
Maria.
Now, before we continue with this, what we just witnessed, what we just read, was another Ryukishiism, as I've been kind of calling them. He just threw a bunch of shit at you that doesn't fucking matter. A lot of the stuff that we just read doesn't matter at all. Except for one thing that he sprinkled in there at the very end, that he kind of addressed for a little bit. Let's see if we can go back to it real quick. This. So on this island, no matter what happens, it would always be possible to call it a lie. So that's the most important thing to consider here. Anything that happens from this point going forward is a lie. It is something that is not true. That is how Beatrice can win. That is how she always wins. She doesn't need to throw the die because she manipulates the world or the scenario or the event that she is in so that it always works out in her favor. I don't remember the exact words that Rika said, but she said something along the lines of like how her powers are the ability to make something that is almost zero succeed, while Beatrice's power is having the ability to make everything almost 100% certain. And that's where this power has its weakness. It's that almost part. If you assume everything is real, everything that is happening is real, then it will be real. But if you call it like it is, in other words, if you call it a lie, then it loses its ability to succeed. And her 100% success rate starts to dwindle. So again, we know there's a 19th person. We know people have seen this 19th person. Whether or not it's Beatrice, that's something else. I'm still on the side of it's an avatar of Beatrice. It is someone claiming to be her. I'm referring to her as Beatrice or Beatrice because it's faster. That me being like how I was in like chapter 2 of Higurashi, where I was like, but then Shion, who's actually Mion, who's actually not Shion, who actually happens to be Mion, and I would say that like every single time, gets annoying. So I'm just referring to this person as Beatrice, but we know that it's an avatar of her. Either that's someone that looks very similar to her, either it's someone that's connected to her, or it's someone that's being possessed by her. We don't know. But what we should be considering is that it's all fake. What we're not going to fucking know. This chapter is not going to tell us anything. I can think about it all I want. I'm not going to be told anything for like a good while. So that's like the main thing to remember. That no matter what the fuck I think about, I'll let her finish. Then no matter what the fuck I think about right now is not going to matter until 2-3 chapters from now. Because again, we're not going to officially know. You're just supposed to kind of immerse yourself in this and still think about it. But at the end of the day, like, whatever is going to happen here is not going to be the truth. What we're going to be seeing is not going to be what's really happening. And that's something that you should consider and keep in the back of your mind. But anyway, because I interrupted her. Maria, around lunchtime today, we met her outside, right?
女の人に。あれは誰？
おお、何度も言ってる。ベアトリーチェ。
マリアは以前にベアトリーチェと会ったことがあるの？
おお、毎年会ってる。
毎年？この六軒島のお屋敷で？
おお。
じゃわからないでしょ。そうなの？
Is that a yes or a no? Answer me. That's so fucking funny. Hold on.
じゃわからないでしょ。
Yeah, like here. She's like, And then here she's like, I don't know what fucking means.
そうなの？
Is that a yes? And then instead of saying which is the letter U and then a hyphen to extend it, so you, right? She responds with which is UN. Which is, yes, it's the same shit. That's so fucking funny.
じゃわからないでしょ。そうなの？いつから会ってるの？何年前から？
わかんない。
わからない？どうして？去年？一昨年？
もっと前から。
That she added that one on purpose. She didn't say it with her usual like tone. It was like she used it like a des, right? Like des is how you finish a sentence, right? Like onegai shimasu, or like what is it? Like if you're like if you just say something, if you're responding to someone, they ask you a question, you can just be like hi this, like yes, period, right? You can use it as a form of punctuation to finish your sentence. Here she used her like that. It's like she said yes. Ooh. Anyway, sorry. The linguistical side of this is really fucking funny sometimes. Rosa was astonished. Only the Yoshiromiya family mansion existed on this island. Or does it? So there couldn't have been any humans other than themselves here. And yet, Maria said she'd been meeting with a suspicious woman every year during the family conference. What Maria said was the truth. Then that strange woman called Beatrice had been at the family conference every year. It's insane. Is Maria saying that eerie woman was at the family conference every year and none of us ever noticed it? Even though Rosa had just met the woman herself a couple of hours ago in the rose garden, she was overcome with a strange emotion that told her not to accept that existence. What in the world did I meet earlier today in the rose garden as the typhoon grew near and winds roared?
マリア、あなたは毎年彼女と会ってると言ったわね。会って何をしてるの？お歌を歌ったり、魔法を習ったり、魔法陣の書き方も習うの。そう、それはすごいわね。マリアがよく自由帳に落書きじゃない、魔法陣を書いたりしてるわよね。それも彼女に教えてもらったの。はい、ベアトリーチェにね、お手本書いてもらうの。ほらほら、見て見て。
Maria joyfully fished around in her handbag. Then she drew out a single notebook and began opening it to that page. Most of the pages were covered with drawings that were literally scribbles. All of them were occult-like things. And while it might sound rude to Maria, who was joyfully flipping through the pages, they were all creepy. Okay, there's the first one, second, the third one, and the fourth one. So we've seen all of these. Each of the pages in the group Maria... Okay, each one of the pages in the group Maria opened to had an eerie magic circle. Furthermore, at a glance, Rosa could see that Maria hadn't drawn them. The strength of the strokes, the thickness of the lines, how clean the shape was. By itself, it wasn't enough to guess the background of the person who had written it. But it was enough for Rosa to be sure that it was someone older than Maria. Rosa had to accept it now. There really was a person on this little Kenjima that she herself hadn't known existed until now. And this person had come to the family conference every year to play with Maria.
マリア、その魔女のベアトリーチェはここに住んでるの？それとも私たちのように島の外に住んでいるの？おう、ベアトリーチェは六軒島の魔女だからこの島に住んでる。じゃあ親族会議のない日にもこの島にいるという。おう、ふうじゃわからないでしょ。どうなの？うん。
She did it again. Like, that is one thing that I do, like, how to word it? Like, I'm sure if you speak Japanese enough, like, if you're around Japanese people every day, it might be a lot easier to tell them apart. But just, like, through the audio, like, her saying, like, here, if I say it out loud, instead of saying, ooh, I said, oon. Could you hear the difference between those two? Probably barely if you're really paying attention. You could hear the at the very end. So it's just kind of funny hearing her go from ooh to oon. I'm making it more obvious, but like she does it so flawlessly as a character, as a CV. Like the CV is very good, and again, it's the same voice actress that did Hanyu's voice in Higurashi. So it's been really interesting just seeing this little exchange between mother and daughter, and how much of an asshole she's still being. Anyway, what in the? I can't believe it. I can't believe it. How long has this unknown witch been living on this island? I used to live on this island. I lived on this island, passing the time in the mansion, in the rose garden. And even so, I never encountered a witch like that. Right?
Mama? Mama? どうしたの? Mama?
頭が痛い。
I was probably getting a little mixed up with my memories from when I was a young girl. She's having flashbacks to the past Rosas that have died in her place, and she's having her flashbacks of her holding the stakes and impaling them on her sister's forehead, because she's actually Beatrice. She was always Beatrice this whole time. Can you imagine? When I was young, I was terrified of the witch, unlike Maria. So for me, the name Beatrice was a synonym for terror. Surely, my fear from those days has been revived by the appearance of a woman going by that name. She can't be a witch. She's obviously a human calling herself Beatrice, right? That's right. That witch entrusted me with an envelope. What in the world could that be? Rosa pulled that Western envelope out of her pocket. It was one of the envelopes that bore the Ushiromiya family crest, which Kinzo used for his personal letters. And its red sealing wax had even been sealed by the head's ring, which Kinzo held. Which meant this envelope belonged to the Ushiromiya family head. In other words, it was from father. Why was a woman calling herself Beatrice holding it, and why did she give it to me? That's right. I'm sure she said to read this aloud at dinner. What in the world could be written inside? A sense of uncertainty gripped Rosa, as if opening this envelope might let loose the incredible misfortune. However, at the same time, a little curiosity sprouted up too, urging her to find out what was written inside before the other siblings could. Using common sense, one might guess that it contained a huge decision somehow related to father's inheritance. Actually, since she'd received it from a woman who called herself Beatrice, there simply had to be some connection. Does it mean this person wants, not just the 4, but a total of 5 people to be included in the inheritance? I need a large sum of money, and I can't wait long. I feel like such a sinful daughter for discussing father's inheritance while he's still alive. But this is no time to spout off cheap ideals. And I've colluded with Rudolph and Ava in order to get some money out of Klaus. Coming from that position, I can't help but see the appearance of the witch as a sign of approaching misfortune. What could be written here? I'm sure it's something frightening. Shall I read it secretly to myself first? The witch requested that it be read at the dinner table with everyone gathered. But if that's what she wanted, why couldn't she just read it aloud herself at dinner? Why did she go through all the trouble of entrusting it to me? Simply put, is it because she doesn't mind if I read it secretly beforehand? It'd be better to secretly read the contents first. I understand that means breaking my promise, but this is no longer the time for cheap ideals. Depending on the contents, I should probably discuss it with Ava and Rudolph. They're always really good thinkers when it comes to this kind of thing. When I gulped and put my hand to the red sealing wax, something suddenly pulled on my sleeve and let out a small scream. I fucking knew it.
マリアなの。驚かせないで。何？
ダメ。
In Maria's expression was the same portent of misfortune she'd felt from that witch, and it sent a tingle up her spine.
ベアトリーチェはママにその手紙は晩餐で読みなさいって言った。魔女の約束は破っちゃダメだよ。
違うわよ。ちょっと封筒を見ただけじゃない。約束は守るわよ。ママもいつもマリアに約束は守りなさいって言ってるもんね。ママももちろん約束は守るわよ。
うん、ママはいい子。
その笑い方可愛くないからやめなさい。
There she didn't say that laugh. She said something like, that creepy laugh. And then she said, it isn't cute. Interesting choice for translation sometimes. Anyway.
おー。
そういえばマリアも封筒をもらったわよね。中にはなんて書いてあったの？
開けてない。ベアトリーチェは開ける時が来るまで開けちゃダメって言った。だから大事に持ってる。うん。
そう。マリアはベアトリーチェの言うことはちゃんと聞くのね。
うん。マリアはベアトリーチェの弟子だから、お師匠の言うことはちゃんと聞くの。
そう。そう。
Rosa realized something. Mixed in with Maria's gaze was the glint of someone that wasn't her. If Rosa broke the rules and opened the envelope here, Beatrice would definitely learn of it. Because Maria was the witch's disciple, Maria was in contact with that witch.
ママは約束を守るわ。だから安心するようベアトリーチェに言ってね。
うん、伝える。
ねえマリア、ベアトリーチェとお話をしたいんだけど、どうすれば会えるのかしら？
知らない。ベアトリーチェはとても気まぐれだから、いつも突然姿を現すの。マリアからは会う方法を知らない。でもね、いつもマリアのことを見てるの。だからマリアが困っていると後できっと助けてくれるの。きっとね、姿を消してマリアの近くに隠れてるんだよ。
その笑いをやめなさいといつも言ってるでしょ。
Oh god. Rosa reflexively hit Maria on the head. That put a stop to Maria's laughing, but it wasn't able to erase the color that had risen to those eyes, a color that seemed to bear a portent of misfortune. Rosa swore. She swore that, at least until they left this island, she would not leave Maria alone. She couldn't allow an unknown being to make direct contact with her daughter any longer. It's now dinner time, I think. It's 6 p.m.
Maria, 戻ってこねえな。
Now, we're gonna have to call it here for today. But before we do, we just had a very, very important scene. It had some very important dialogue. I talked about this beforehand during the Chapter 1 playthrough, or when we were reading it. How it really depends on how they will handle it in this world. But again, assuming magic is real, and assuming that witches are real, if they follow, it now depends on the rules that they follow for familiars. I've mentioned this before, but depending on what source you read, a familiar, just as a quick reminder, is a being that makes a contract with a spellcaster. And by making this contract with the spellcaster offers them protection or something that they want. For example, might be food, might be money. And in return, the spellcaster has the ability to call upon them, know where they are at all times, or in some cases, see through their eyes or even communicate with them telepathically in order to be able to tell them to do something. So, hey, I'm missing these ingredients. Go to the forest and get me these mushrooms, right? And then the familiar knows what to do. It'll gather them, and then it'll bring them to the spellcaster. And again, familiars can be anything, from birds to snakes, frogs, mice, whatever. But it can also, in some cases, be humans. Now, it could be that Beatrice told Maria ages ago, "You'll be my disciple," by signing a contract with me. But instead of it being a contract of, one between pupil and master, it was a literal, familiar contract that she ended up signing, probably in blood. And that's how she learned about magic and all the shit that she has, scribbled and written down, right? So that is a very important thing to note. And a very important thing to remember. Because that means that there is a sect of individuals that are dedicated to Beatrice. I said this during my post-chapter discussion of Chapter 1, but I predict that there are 3 people involved with these murders, and it's not necessarily Beatrice. I'm pretty sure that 3 other individuals are more than likely involved, at least 3 others. So there's not just a 19th guest, there's a 20th and a 21st minimum, where each one of them committed each of the kills. The first one of the 6 individuals, the second one of the lovers, and then the third one of the group of the servants back in the living room at the very end. Now, again, assuming that there is a sort of cult or another sect of individuals that live on this island besides the servants, then this theory still holds true. But it's very interesting that, again, Maria called herself a disciple. So, I mean, she might think she's a disciple. She could be something else. And if she is something like a familiar, then that's why Beatrice is able to know a lot of things ahead of time. That, and there's also the whole thing where Maria really believes in Beatrice a lot. To an obsessive degree because of, how she is as a person. As for what all that means, we won't know until later on. So like I said, I think now is a good time to swap on over to the ending screen.